A broadcast service of City College and the San Diego Community College District. This is Jazz FM 88.3 KSDS San Diego. I'm Dave Drexler with Inside Art. Support for Inside Art comes from the members of San Diego's Jazz 88.3 Miles 100 Radio. This week on Inside Art, we'll meet veteran director Jeffrey B. Moss, who's leading North Coast Repertory Theater's rarely staged Frank Lesser musical, The Most Happy Fella. But first, next weekend marks the San Diego premiere of rising Korean-born jazz composer, arranger, and bandleader Jihye Lee, who brings her 13-piece ensemble to the Conrad for 2 performances Saturday, June 6th. Lee's most recent album, Infinite Connections, features traditional Korean rhythms at its foundation in an emotionally arresting song cycle of 9 diverse compositions for 18-piece jazz orchestra. Infinite Connections has been praised as a powerful testament to Lee's artistry, appearing on several Best of 2025 lists, including from The Nation, The Guardian, and Jazz Times. Jihye Lee and her orchestra have graced some of the most prestigious stages and festivals in jazz, and her innovative approach to composition has earned numerous awards, including the BMI Foundation's Charlie Parker Jazz Composition Prize and the Korean Music Award. Jihye Lee, it's a pleasure to welcome you to Inside Art.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for the invite.
Well, I'm very interested in your musical upbringing in Korea to start with, and how you came to jazz, what that journey was all about.
Well, I am the only musician in my family, so it's somewhat unusual. But I loved all the music from the TVs and cartoon shows. And I have my small toy recorder, which was my instrument at the time. And then I loved singing. I probably would sing along forever, just walking, just sleeping, whatever. But I found a rock band in my high school time, so I played guitar for a year. But it wasn't my ultimate outlet for my musicality. So I switched it to singing, and I entered a university. So I graduated, and I just did some of the singer-songwriter type of activities. It wasn't big, but it was fun. But my personality wasn't a singer type, but I really loved the process of making something that didn't exist. Once I put it in the note, it has the life. So, but I thought at the time I didn't really have the mentor. And I heard about Berklee College of Music, which was still is the biggest school, other than the classical ones in the world. So I would say, I said to myself, what about just I go to Berklee College of Music and then see what I can do? And I moved to Boston in 2011, and I heard the most lush, enormous sound coming out of the classroom when I was walking on the hallway, which was the big band rehearsal. And that was the beginning of my composer's journey.
That's fascinating. And then you led you to also study at the Manhattan School of Music, right?
I did.
And that was for a master's degree. And is that where you really honed your compositional craft even more?
I would say in New York, I had a chance to hone my skill set, of course, in composition, but also learn about the reality. I had an environment to see lots of big band shows, and I also started to lead my big band myself. So it was more of learning by doing. Also, at the same time, the reason why I moved to New York was Jim McNeely, who was teaching at Manhattan School of Music, who passed away last year, sadly. So I had a chance to study with him, just getting into the scene a little bit. So it was a huge schooling.
You know, when you form a big band, it's a lot of this, when you're young, when you're starting off, is your associations with other students and people that you meet. You just don't start a big band out of nowhere, right? Yeah. Tell me a little bit about forming those relationships with the people you wanted to help interpret your music.
I actually recorded my first album in Boston. Once I graduated, I wanted to document the music that I've written in the Berklee time. So I asked my teacher, Greg Hopkins, who is still teaching at Berklee for 40 something years. He's a legend. And he agreed to help me out, thankfully. So he was the producer and music contractor and everything. So he put together the most finest Boston musicians to the band. But I really didn't know anything about band leading back then. But with his help, I was able to make an album. And fortunately and unfortunately, I moved to New York right away. So I never had a show with them, which is a little strange. But, and then at this time, like, I'm thinking, what if I moved to New York and then made my first album myself? What if? But I know that because of that experience, I was able to move forward. So everything has its own reason. So with the recording, I contacted some of the big band players here and there. And of course, that certainly helped because I already had my fine recordings that I can show. And then every time I show the music video, they say, oh, I was in Boston. I studied with him or that person. And, so it was an easy way of introducing my music and forming a band.
And then there's the quality of the music. When they first hear it, they're going to jump on board. So you've got a great band that you're bringing with you. Not the full 18 pieces to San Diego, but 12 or 13. Is this that in the ensemble for most of these? Tell us a little bit about who you're bringing with you.
There's a drummer, Mark Ferber, who was on my Daring Mind recording album. And he moved to LA after the recording. And I was so sad to miss him. But fortunately, San Diego gig happened. And this is our reunion to have Mark Ferber back to the band, which is very exciting. And I'm bringing Carl Moraghi, who is the master of baritone saxophone, who's been in my album forever. And John Lurie, young tenor saxophone player, and Charles Pillow, who is master of alto and flutes and piccolo and all the woodwind stuff. Also, Adam Birnbaum, master of the keyboard, piano, fantastic player. So it's just to name a few. I'm very excited.
Well, let's talk about your 2024 release, critically acclaimed release, Infinite Connections, which features a lot of these musicians that will be performing with you at the Conrad in La Jolla on June 6th. This is drawn a lot from the traditional Korean rhythms in this 9-song cycle recording. Maybe you can describe how you put this album together.
Well, in 2018, 3 composers, including myself, just was having a coffee, and we somehow had an idea, why don't we bring our own heritage into the jazz scene? Because we never really had done that. So we agreed to it. So we had a show at the Mena Center in New York. And that was my beginning of the fusing with Korean elements into jazz. So I composed one song, which is Karma, and I also did an arrangement. Just a Korean thing, but after the show, lots of non-Korean people came to me saying it was very fresh, unusual, and I was like, it's really good to hear. And also, some of the Korean audience, they cried while hearing the folk music, and we had a COVID, and my grandma died out of nowhere in 2020, and my mom got an illness, so it happened to be a huge inspiration to me to learn about my ancestry, motherhood, or the music that my grandma or my great-grandma would listen to comfort themselves. And I was ashamed not to know a lot of it. So, and COVID, everybody had lots of time. So I relearned my heritage. It was kind of interesting perspective because I was a jazz composer who is from Korea, relearning the Korean folk music. And I was fascinated by the rhythm set because it was really advanced rhythmic, like odd meters and some of the long sets. So it was very unusual. It was very organic, nothing like 4/4 or 3/4 like. So that just organic things happened to my life, led me to know about Koreanness, and then it made me think about how we are all connected to nature, to each other, to our ancestors, things like that. So I had to make the album.
And you also have a nice guest appearance for 2 songs on this record by the great trumpeter Ambrose Akinmusire. Tell us a little bit about how that association came to be.
Well, this is a very spiritual music, and then I couldn't help but thinking of having him. First connection, I believe I think it was 2020. I was one of the juries for ASCAP Young Composers competition, and Akinmusire was there too. So I connected with him by that. Of course, it was through Zoom. And he was having a show at Vanguard, and I ran for it, and I heard him live again, and it was just like how he tuned into beyond this reality. It seems like just like a spiritual journey to me. So I was like, this is it. So I asked him if he would be interested in appearing to my album. And at the time he had a schedule in New York, so everything kind of like worked out perfectly. So yeah, I was very, very happy to have him.
One of the pieces in particular that's really intriguing to me on your album is called Born in 1935, and it is inspired by your grandmother. Maybe you can share with us a little bit about her life.
One day I got a call from my mother that my grandma was missing. She had been having a little bit of Alzheimer symptoms here and there, and one day she just like went outside by herself, and she wandered for some hours and died in System Field, which was traumatizing, which was so unusual. And I was devastated, and I happened to really think of her life. She was born in 1935. She became an orphan around the age of 5-ish. She lived with lots of relatives, but no one welcomed her. And she married to my grandfather around 14, 15. She had to be the person who's in charge of, like, making the family, feeding them, just like even getting tinder to warm the house. So she just like had a crazy hard life. And she had lots of surgeries, like all over her body. She went through Japanese colony time and war, poverty. So she went through lots of things. And she would just cry while just talking about her early life. It's just in front of me and my mother. I thought about it. And at the end of her life, she saw the flourish of Korean history. So I was just like, what a life. What a like century she lived in. So yeah, I was thinking, what if a young girl is dancing in this tune, just facing her whirlwind of the life? And that was born in 1935.
Born in 1935, part of Infinite Connections, the most recent album by my guest Jihye Lee, who'll be bringing her ensemble to the Conrad on June 6th for 2 performances at 5:30 and 8 p.m. This is going to be a really exciting event in that intimate space, the J at the Conrad. And Jihye, thanks for taking a few moments with us to talk about your band and your music on Inside Art. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
The Jihye Lee Orchestra makes its San Diego debut Saturday, June 6th in 2 shows at 5:30 and 8 p.m. at the Conrad in La Jolla. Tickets are available at theconrad.org. You can learn more about the Jihye Lee Orchestra and purchase their latest release, Infinite Connections, at Jihye Music, spelled Jihye, music.com. Coming up, we'll meet the veteran director leading North Coast Reps production of the rarely staged Frank Lesser musical, The Most Happy Fella. Jeffrey B. Moss joins us next as Inside Art continues here on San Diego's Jazz 88.3. Funding for Inside Art comes from the members of Jazz 88.3, where your support brings the joy and history of jazz and all of the arts to San Diego. To become a member, visit jazz88.org/donate.